night 2 of week 1 of the new NFL season. Let's get straight into it with a more explosive game to cap off everyone's Friday night and the NFL's first foray into international gameplay in Brazil. The Eagles beat the Packers 34-29 in what ended up being a game that came down to the wire. But let's just go through a fair amount of developments throughout the course of the game. Some of them are random, but without further ado, we had more issues with decision making from the head coaches in using their timeouts early, especially Matt LaFleur in the first half. In the very first quarter of the game, they already used 2 of their timeouts and make it harder for themselves to try to push momentum in their favor at the end of the half. It doesn't make any sense. First 2 nights of action, see coaches doing this. What is happening? Why are you making these decisions? I don't understand. And when it comes to both quarterbacks as well, decision making for them was not the best. I mean, part of that can be attributed to the fact that they were playing on a soccer field in Brazil, right? Obviously, you're going to have a lot of slippage on there for many players, and it probably threw them off of their rhythm just a little bit, but even then, man, the interception that Jalen Hurts threw on the very first drive of the season, which was picked off by Xavier McKinney, as Hurts is trying to work it over the middle. McKinney worked it off. And then you have another one where he just throws it clear as day to Jaire Alexander. That's not really excusable at all. And with Jordan Love, you have him throwing it straight to Reed Blankenship. At that point, it don't have anything to do with any type of lack of rhythm. You're just making errant decisions. So we have to question that. But by the end of the game, both of them put in some very good work for both of their respective teams to get them to where they needed to be. And both of them missed a fair amount of opportunities as well. I mean, for a while there, Jalen Hurts was not getting it going in the run game at all. If you remember in their 2022 matchup, Jalen Hurts ran all over this team, as the Eagles as a whole had a 363 over them, which was a historical performance for them overall. Jalen Hurts accounted for 157 of those, and Miles Sanders, of all running backs, accounted for 143 of those yards in their win against them in 2022. In this one, he only finished with 33 yards on 13 carries. They were trying to get him touches in the run game, but on those read option plays where he would try to keep the ball and fool the defense, they would not be fooled at all. Rashawn Gary would get him sometimes. Preston Smith would stay locked in on him. All around solid effort on that aspect by the Eagles. But in terms of the pure running back gameplay, I mean, it came together for both teams. I'll talk about Josh Jacobs because he had a slow start. At a point, he was running the ball 9 times, getting only 19 yards, and he had a reception for 9 yards. But it came together for him in the second half, and he ended with a solid performance of 16 rushes and 84 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but when he had to step up and make plays for them in order to put them in position to score, he did it when it mattered. So we have to give him credit for that now. Real star of the night on the Eagles side, though, goes to Saquon Barkley. I mean, dude, even him, he suffered some early slippage himself, losing 5 yards on his very first carry, and everybody was all up in the air about that, all in a frenzy. But you know what? He bounced back very well. He got a great reception touchdown by just mossing the shit out of a player in Isaiah McDuffie that was just completely out of position. Stood no chance of trying to contest a catch. Beautiful throw by Jalen Hurts for 20-yard reception touchdown for him. Then he scores an easy rushing touchdown and gets another one for good measure later on in the game to finish with 3 total touchdowns and also getting 26 total touches for 132 total yards. He was the first Eagles player to get 3 touchdowns in their debut since Terrell Owens in 2004, according to Adam Schefter. And also, him and another player set more NFL history by becoming the first players to score a rushing and receiving touchdown in the same quarter. But you may ask, who was this other player? It was none other than the Packers' Jayden Reed, who asserted himself as quite the gadget player. Now, obviously, we know the wide receiver situation with the Packers at this point. They don't have a true number one in any sense of the label. But for him to go out there, get a 70-yard receiving touchdown, get a 33-yard rushing touchdown at first to open up the game, and tally 171 total on 5 touches is absolutely insane. Because every time he got the ball, it was an explosive play, and it was a well-timed play. Even the play at the end, even though the game didn't end how they wanted it to end for the Packers at all, they don't get in position to potentially make something magical happen without Reed setting the tone early on that drive by getting that catch near the midfield. Also, not to mention, too, A.J. Brown, for the Eagles, he did A.J. Brown things. They were just, you had to watch it. Jaire Alexander, obviously, performed well against him in 2022 when they matched up against each other. And from the jump, they were just talking a whole lot of shit towards each other. Jaire Alexander obviously got him with a pick later on, but A.J. Brown opened up the second half by getting a 67-yard reception touchdown and just completely burning Jaire Alexander. They engaged in a whole foot race to the end zone, and he was not caught at all. Outran him completely. So that was something to watch. This kicker as well, very interesting. The Packers cut Anders Carlson, obviously, because he was just struggling to make the simplest of kicks. And even though Matt LaFleur would make comments and try to deny that he was talking shit about Carlson, he knew he was talking shit about Carlson, okay? So he was out. They brought in Greg Joseph from the Minnesota Vikings, and they said that he would start, but clearly something changed their mind. And even Jaire Alexander, for some reason, kind of gave credit to kicker Brayden Narveson that he was going to be very good for this Packers team. And granted, he played decent, but he missed a pivotal field goal in a way that Anders Carlson would. It was a 5-point game at the time, and they could have certainly used a field goal down 31-26 to make it a field goal game. And not to mention that with what would happen in the game later on, with the position that the Packers would be in, no timeouts, trying to get into field goal range. At that very point, if they had made that field goal, their outlook would have been very different. They would have been trying to at least get into field goal range and conserve the clock. They wouldn't have been trying to gun for a touchdown at all. So, they're going to have to see about that. It is only one game. Tough call, but as long as it doesn't turn into anything too drastic, the Narveson guy probably has a shot to do some good things for them, all things considered. Also, Yes, there were an egregious amount of flags in the Ravens Chiefs game, but honestly, I think that was refed fairly well and evenly on both sides. But in this game, for whatever reason, it just felt like penalties. Ref ball was being just spread all over the place. It was obvious what they were trying to do, just left and right, especially in the late stretch of the game. There was no knocking it at all. I mean, damn, you get a one play here, and then they just try to do whatever to stop the momentum that play, implicated for a given team. Like, bro, oh my gosh. That problem was just more prevalent in that game, in my opinion. As much as they want to complain about Thursday night one, no, you should have seen it, man. I mean, damn, I know that they were on a soccer field. I know I'm wearing a Brazilian soccer jersey right now. I mean, damn. Like, are y'all roughing the right sport at this point? Shit. Like, there's no way. In Philadelphia as well, you have to account for the fact that Jason Kelce is no longer with the team. He's actually working with ESPN for their Countdown show program. Cam Jurgens got the start for this game, and there were so many times in this game where there were just blatant miscommunications. I mean, one of Jalen Hurts' turnovers ended up being a bobbled snap. Not even bobbled snap. It went right over his head. He didn't even know it was coming to him because they were not on the same page. And Jurgens, whatever the case may have been in his own mind, he either snapped it too early or too late. Jalen Hurts didn't see it, and they lose track of the ball, and the Packers gain possession. I didn't do much with that on that specific possession. They only got a field goal out of it. But in other parts of the game as well, there were at least 3 occasions that resulted in fumbles because the snap exchange was completely botched. I mean, look no further than the final play on the drive for the Eagles to close out the game, which would end with a Jake Elliott field goal to create enough distance to force the Packers into the situation they would have to be in. They try to go for the signature tush push, and granted, it works sometimes because, again, their personnel is just like that, proving it's still effective without Jason Kelce back there. But with Jurgens, clearly, it can still be stopped. It has been proven that it can be stopped, but they stunted their own progress on that play because a botched snap exchange was so close to being a difference maker for the Packers to gain possession back there almost immediately and not even have Jake Elliott try out there for the kick. Just take possession right then and there. And that could have been drastically different as well if that is how things played out. But it didn't, and ultimately the Packers got the ball back, tried their hardest to work it down. As I mentioned earlier, you had the play from Jayden Reed to get them near midfield. But on one of the very first plays, Jordan Love tries to get the ball out, and he ends up having no choice but to pitch it to Emmanuel Wilson, who also, for a while there, I mean, let's talk about it real quick. This man was outplaying Josh Jacobs for quite a little bit of time. I ain't gonna hold you, man. Josh Jacobs emerged, but Emmanuel Wilson set the tone, weirdly enough, for this Packers team in the run game first. Anyway, he pitches the ball to him, but he ends up, being down on the field for a while, and it turns out that he gets his ankle rolled up on by Jalen Carter, I'm not even going to argue whether it is a dirty play or not. It is just a rough situation. And as we found out today from Adam Schefter, the injury is an MCL sprain. That surprisingly is not a season-ending one. Typically, when you hear anything like that, it's a season-ending injury all the time, which just goes to show how great the advancements in health have been over the past few years. Because if you hear that even a decade ago, your season is done. And your career could even be altered. But for him, he'll be out at least 3 to 6 weeks. And the Packers have no other choice than to put in Malik Willis for a couple plays at the end of the game. Now, they had just traded for Malik Willis recently after he was cut by the Titans. And he had never thrown a touchdown pass in his NFL career. He has only thrown interceptions, and if he's gotten in the end zone at all, it's been through the run game. He has not thrown a single passing touchdown. Keep in mind. So they were coming in to that situation. They had no other choice, but you're asking a player of his caliber to do something he's literally never done in his career. Very first play. Tries to go for a short pass to get them in closer range for a potential Hail Mary attempt. Misses the pass. Next play, which will be the final play of the game, he steps up in the pocket to try and launch it downfield, but is ultimately tackled by Zach Baun and sacked in the backfield for what would be the game-sealing play. Respectable game by Zach Baun as well. He had 15 tackles and 2 sacks. Just something I wasn't quite expecting from him, to be honest. I would have thought that one of their other linebackers would have pulled it off. But no, he emerged as a very key player for them, getting himself in the right place at the right time, and ultimately it won the Eagles the game. So you have to respect that. It was a great one. And obviously, doing this a little late, but in less than 13 overall hours, I'll say, you have some NFL football coming your way, a full slate. So, to take time out, get this covered, because there's a whole barrage of games coming on tomorrow, and obviously the one on Monday. But that'll do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.